then I shouldn't have been coming here then, okay? I thought you wanted me to come and speak to the young people. Huh? So I came home, and I didn't have a job waiting for me. So you may have heard that I was eventually Minister of Power. Nobody offered me a job when I was coming. I came home to start something new, and that was electricity. Remember, when I was Science and Tech Minister, I remember that the main problem with creation of industries was electricity. And so I wanted to do something about it. So I started geometric power. And geometric power was started at a time there was really no private power company in Nigeria. But President Obasanjo at the time was visionary enough to understand that it is through private power investment that Nigeria can grow power. And so he granted us concession. First, we built a small power plant in Abuja to test this idea. And then we eventually went to Aba to build the Aba Integrated Power Project. What I want to tell our young people is, if you have an idea, go for it, but let the idea have legs to stand on. When we were starting geometric power, the Aba Integrated Power Project, the idea was this: we want to build a power plant inside a disco. We carve out a disco which the government had concession to us, and we build a power plant inside it. If you look around the whole nation today, there is no disco that has an embedded power plant. None, except Aba. And that is why the power plant is working. We also went ahead to build a 27-kilometer gas pipeline to the power plant to ensure that the fuel is coming and reliable. So, power became important. But let me say that I know when the governor was speaking, he talked about technology driving a whole lot of stuff. I look at electricity. I don't know. In Enugu Electricity Distribution Company, I don't know if you have smart meters well distributed. Our goal in Aba is that every customer must have a smart meter, but not just smart meter, but a smart meter that is AI controlled so that we can tell what is happening. So the AMI, advanced metering infrastructure, is installed. Let me also say that something happened some months ago. Some months ago, we wanted to buy drones because we want to inspect the gas pipeline, the power lines, and be able to know what's happening. So one of my sons said he has some friends that manufacture drones in Abuja. I said, really? They make the drones here in Nigeria? I said, yes. I said, let's see. So first, we had a virtual meeting with them, and they showed their drone flying. I said, fine. But I am a very practical person, so I said, invite them. Let's see the drones. So 3 young men came from Abuja. They brought their drones, and So after making wonderful presentation, I said, well, let's take the drone on a test drive. So we went outside, and they powered the drone, and uplifted the drone like a helicopter, and then projected like a rocket. The drone took off. I said, you people built this? Yes, they built the drone themselves. So we said, we will do everything to see that you're supported. We'll support you. But you know what's amazing about it? The two people who created the company, one is 21 years old, and the other one is 22 years old. That's you people. So, what is this message in this? You can build fortune by yourself, by thinking outside the box, by being entrepreneurial, by finding solution. I decided I want to go to see their factory. I went to Abuja, and I saw their factory. They were building some drones for Ghana, and there's one for Slovakia. They have a whole lot of stuff, even towers to watch security. These boys are doing this in Nigeria. All that you need is to think about solution. Look at niches that you fill. Look at gaps that you can fill. So, just want to say that recently, we got a license to build in Enugu State, Institute of Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. Yes. It's very important that we support the government's initiative and begin to develop such institutions. So I want to say the following to you. Entrepreneurship, do not come out of your school, whether it is a tertiary institution or wherever, and expect that you should just go and find a desk job somewhere. And you're harassing your parents and your uncles and aunts to find you a job. Think, you can create a job for yourself. You can form partnerships. Where you're doing it, be bold. Be bold. When we were doing our project, the NEPA people were laughing at us. So say, look at you. Where is anybody building a power company, a power plant? And then you want to own a power plant and a distribution company. And they were laughing. But today, we have built all of that, and we have electricity in Aba. So, be bold, be courageous, but be focused. The thing about people with wonderful, talents is that they think about, there are so many things that go on in their minds. So you want to start this business, you want to start the other business, so many businesses. No. Focus. You might find some roadblocks. And believe me, if you're doing something that is great, you're for sure going to find people who are going to fight you somewhere. So, be bold and persistent in what you're doing. Also, integrity, very important. If you have an agreement with somebody, don't wish-wash it. Not today you're here, tomorrow you're in another place. Integrity. Be someone that people can rely on. I have a book that I want to work on. I haven't finished it. That book, Integrity as a Commodity, because you can literally make money with integrity. So don't forget that one. Then finally, I want to applaud the Honorable Commissioner for this, what you've done here. I want to applaud the Governor for giving you a free hand to do it. And what we are seeing is the future. I believe that Enugu State will be that center, tech center, in Nigeria and perhaps in sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you very much.
Is that all you can do? Please, with a standing ovation, let's put our hands together for Professor Bat Nnaji for that powerful conversation, power-packed lessons from all he had said. Keep clapping. Keep clapping. He's doing, oh my goodness, I'm blown. You know, he said something that struck me so hard, and I want to re-emphasize, and that is, if you have an idea, go all out for it. We are all young people in this room, full of passion and ideas. So please, do not allow your ideas to sleep. Don't say you don't have funding, you don't have platforms, you don't have opportunity. If you have an idea, go all out for it.
When we're clapping for Professor Bath, we're clapping like we're hungry. Are we hungry? That is not a question you should answer, it's rhetoric. We want to recognize a man who they've given another name here on stage. They called him Monstrous Money. Ladies and gentlemen, this man is not just a tech guru, but he is the founder, MD, CEO, Tennessee Professional Services Limited, an enterprise transformation and technology consulting firm. He's also the founder of Genesis Tech Hub, people and business capacity development initiative designed to drive and support innovation. Before I'll ask my co-MC to say something, Tennessee also supplies us internet at the University of Nigeria Enugu campus. And on this note, you can see why I am passionate and we're too trying to introduce him today. We're not just introducing him because he has monstrous money, but today he's going to give free Wi-Fi to somebody standing on this stage.
He's here already. Please, let's put our hands together for him and celebrate him.
Thank you very much. I don't think anybody can get luckier than this, being introduced by two ladies. Okay, my name is Kingsley. I was born in this town. I was raised in this town. This town made me. And I want every young person seated here. I know we're hungry. I know we're tired. This is usually not the best time to come and present. When you have someone like Professor Nnaji present, then our chairman, Leo Stan present, and then I'm the one coming next when people are tired. But I promise you, if you listen to me, you're going to leave here a transformed person. I wish His Excellency was here because I was going to thank him specially, but I'm sure the Honorable Commissioner will make sure this message gets to him. I am eternally grateful for the government of Enugu State for making this thing happen here in Enugu today. Some of you might not understand. What is happening here today is something some of us have been preaching for the past 15 years. In fact, about 8-9 years ago, it took the then Vice President, Professor Yomi Oshibajo, to come to Enugu to tell the world about what we're doing at Genesis Tech Hub at Enugu Lifestyle and Gulf City. So for me, this is a dream come true. Enugu is suddenly front and center on the map of the world where technology conversation is being held. And not just that it's happening today, like the Honorable Commissioner promised us, this is going to be a regular thing happening at the minimum every year in Enugu. It's an exciting time to be a young person being in Enugu. Interestingly, some of us were not very lucky. At the time we were growing up and very passionate about technology, having wonderful ideas about some enterprising things we can do using technology, but never really had the kind of support structure that makes it happen. There is an ecosystem that makes technology venturing come to play. There is a collection, an aggregation of different entities, the VCs, the tech hubs, the academia. A good example is that there is not going to be anything like a Silicon Valley if you take away Stanford University. The very first set of products that came out of Silicon Valley were actually initiated by professors in Stanford University. So there is an ecosystem that makes it work. And I'm grateful to God that today it appears that that ecosystem is emerging in Enugu. And it's a good time to be here. I also want to thank, unfortunately in absentia, Chairman, what I call him, Leo Stan. He's a wonderful guy. Before I came up here, I was talking to my friend, Dr. Chioke, and I was asking him that this Leo Stan also has been nice to us, particularly when we started this business we are doing in Lagos. And there are some things he did for me which I don't know whether I should stand here and talk about. And he said, no, go and say it. I said, no, it has to do with money. I don't want to start talking about money here. He said, no, go and say it. The truth is, Leo Stan will fulfill orders worth $30 million. I didn't say naira. $30 million and not ask me for even a bank guarantee. So when he talked about credibility, I knew where he was coming from. Which is also another thing you need to take away from this conversation happening here today. It's not about the technical skills. It's not about the knowledge of what to do. It's about the kind of person you choose to become when it comes to how you relate with people, how important your word is to you, how important your commitment is to you. If you're the person whose words are nothing but empty words, nobody will touch you with a 10-foot pole. No matter how smart you are, no matter how resourceful you are, if your words does not mean anything to you or to the next person you're giving that your word, you don't mean anything. Today, we run a business that turns over $200 million every year on the average, with presence in about 10 African countries. Our desire actually is to have an extensive footprint across Africa. But that is not the story. The story is that the business I'm talking about actually started here in Enugu. So if anybody is telling you that it's a disadvantage to be born in Enugu because Enugu is a civil service community, tell the person they are very wrong. Sometime in 2008, I left my work, resigned voluntarily, because you know how you do the same thing over a period of time and you want to do something different. At that time, I paid 85,000 euros, not naira. And you can check these things I'm saying. I paid 85,000 euros in 2008 to go get my MBA from INSEAD Business School. That was the kind of money some of my friends then were using to buy very wonderful cars. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it is not important. But there is something about life and what I called deferred compensation. When you choose to reward yourself before you even get to your destination, you reward yourself too early and then you eat your seed, if you get what I mean. So if you eat your seed, you're never going to have harvest. So you're going to have harvest if during seed time you plant something. So by spending 85,000 euro in 2008 to go do a 14-month MBA program, I essentially sowed a seed that got my head thinking. It was in the course of that program that I started working off my house in Lagos, set up an office off Nza Street here in Enugu, somewhere next to where we all go to eat fish and have very good cold beer. But that was where this journey started. I could have done a lot of things then. I could have, made different kinds of investment with that money at that time. But that was what I felt I needed to do. So, some of you seated up here today, if the only thing you're going to take away from this conversation happening here is that there is seed time and then there is harvest, you would have learned a lot. If the only thing you're going to take away from this conversation going on here is that you can become whatever you choose to if you remain focused, irrespective of your location, that a company that is turning around $200 million every year started somewhere off Unza Street, here in Enugu, just about 16, 17 years ago. If that's the only thing you can take away from here, and it's going to encourage and strengthen you, then you have learned a lot. But that is not what my presentation is about. My presentation is about the tech ecosystem. Can I go to the next slide? When I was coming, I was really worried about how to engage my audience. I really like to keep my audience. I like to tell stories. I like to make my presentation with stories. But because this audience is it's going to be a mixed audience, I knew I was going to have a lot of our friends from government because this is their program. But most importantly, I also know that a lot of people have been invited, young people who are interested in what they can make with their lives for tomorrow. I also know that a lot of tech enthusiasts from outside Enugu are also going to. So it's going to be a mixed audience. So I was thinking about what kind of story am I going to tell to hold everybody together? And I have done my best. But what I have here on the board is one of the things I like to use to communicate the importance of knowing what to do and why you do what you do. So, what we'll have there is a string of numbers. If I ask you to memorize those numbers now and give it back to me in the next 2 seconds, well, maybe there's a genius here that can do it. But I promise you, 95% of the people seated here cannot memorize that number and give it back to us in 2 seconds. But because we don't have time, I don't want us to try it. In some other interesting audience where I have the time, I usually try it and it's interesting. But the real interesting thing is that when you understand what this number represents, you find out that you don't need to memorize it. Not just will you be able to remember it, you can actually extrapolate and tell us what will be the next numbers that will follow 9. Am I communicating? Good. So the numbers we'll have here are the squares of the natural numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2. So the square of the natural numbers is what we'll have here. So square of 1 is 1, square of 2 is 4, square of 3 is 9, square of 4 is 16, square of 5 is 25. And I'm sure you're going to say, wow. Am I correct? Excellent. So that is exactly what happens when you know why you have to do something. When you know why you have to do something, the journey becomes easier. The journey becomes more exciting. Even when there are bumps or challenges along the journey, you're able to master them. You're able to sustain the journey because you know why you're doing what you're doing and you're not going to be deterred by the challenges. The next slide is an interesting slide, which is showing us how far things have changed right before our eyes. So, on my left here is a listing of the 10 most capitalized companies globally. This was what it was 20 years ago in 2004. So look at the names of the companies there. Number 1 on that list is General Electric, GE. I'm sure you know GE. They make gas turbines. In fact, GE is a conglomerate. They make different things. They make hospital equipment, etc. The people in power business, deal a lot with GE. Of course, you have Microsoft. Then you have ExxonMobil, okay? Pfizer, Citigroup, Walmart, British Petroleum, Real Dutch Shell, Johnson & Johnson, Intel. Now, look at the value of their total capitalization. So the most capitalized company at that time, in 2004, was General Electric. Do we remember Jack Welch? Does anybody here know Jack Welch? Super. I mean, if you know Jack Welch, you can understand what Jack Welch was at the helm of, when he was at the helm of affairs at GE. So Jack Welch was running the most capitalized company at that time, and you can see 370 billion, ranked number 1, and the list was Intel. You remember Intel? Does anyone know Intel? Intel Inside on your MacBook, on your laptop, on your desktop. Super. Now, on the right is today. On your right is today, the 10 most capitalized companies. Are we together? Number 1 on that list is Microsoft, a tech company. Number 2 on that list is Apple, a tech company. Number 3 on that list is Nvidia, a tech company. Number 4 is Saudi Aramco. Saudi Aramco is the sovereign wealth fund of Saudi Arabia, and we can understand. But by the way, let this not deceive you, because Saudi is already preparing extensively for a post-oil world. Saudi is already assuming that oil will be oil is not the big thing again in future. Okay? Now, the next is Amazon, Jeff Bezos. You know Amazon, a tech company. The next is Alphabet. Alphabet is the parent company of the Google that you know. Alphabet is the holding company of the Google that you know. So it's a tech company. Then Berkshire Hathaway. Do we know Warren Buffett? The ace investment guy from Omaha, the Oracle of Omaha. Now, followed by Meta, Facebook, and then Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly, interesting. Eli Lilly is a biotech firm. Eli Lilly is in the pharmaceutical or in the healthcare business. Now, but healthcare is changing completely. There is a concept of healthcare today that is called biotech, okay? Where even the mode of treatment and, all the likes of it are changing. So Eli Lilly is listed today as one of the most capitalized 10 companies, not just because it's a pharmaceutical or in the health business, but most likely because of what it is using technology to do in the health sector. And then the last is Broadcom. Now, look at the shift from energy, finance, and what I call industry to tech. By 2024, only Intel and Microsoft were the tech companies listed as the 10 most capitalized companies. 20 years down the line, 20 years is so much in recent memory for me that I'm wondering, this happened so quick. In 20 years, there is serious displacement that has turned around the table, and the 10 most capitalized companies today, if you take away Saudi Aramco, Berkshire Hathaway, and Eli Lilly, and I still consider Eli Lilly a tech-based healthcare business. The rest are tech companies. But that's not even the story this slide tells me. The real story this slide tells me is that 20 years down the line, the most capitalized of these companies, Microsoft, $3 trillion, can write a single check and buy the rest of these companies 20 years ago. Because when you sum up the total capitalization of all those guys here, it is not up to 3 trillion. And all those things happened in just 10, 20 years. It gives you the power of what technology innovation can do. It gives you the power of the kind of multiplier effect tech-type ideas bring to the table, the type you don't get from any kind of business. Next slide. So as Nigerians, we know how interesting the oil and gas space is. Back in the days when we were in school, when we were leaving school, all of us were doing everything to get into the oil industry. In fact, I'll tell you guys an interesting story. For my youth service, I was posted to Bauchi. While I was in Bauchi, I was working the phones, trying to call people I know to see if after I finish my camp, I'll get a posting to Port Harcourt so that I can work in the oil and gas industry. But I serve a living God. I went to that camp hoping to transfer back to Port Harcourt so I can work in an oil firm. But the living God that I serve gave me a nice girlfriend in that camp, who is my wife today, by the way. So, the way it works, by By the time the people I was calling to help me move my posting to Port Harcourt, some of them made progress, and we're calling me back to say, don't you want to come to? I said, no, don't worry. Bauchi is so good. Everything there is cool. In fact, I like their weather. With 600 naira, I buy goats, and we can make barbecue in the evening with my friends and use it to drink Heineken. My whole interest in going to Port Harcourt changed. So you see, he that findeth a good woman. So, the oil and gas industry has so dominated our mindset in Nigeria that most of us actually don't see what is happening around us. So there is this big argument of what is really our critical asset. Is it oil? Is it, is it the mineral resources, both the solid mineral or, crude oil? Or is it the human capital? Now, the slide I have here is showing that, so you have the countries listed: Brazil, Indonesia, Nigeria, Pakistan, United States. By 2050, Nigeria is going to have a population that will exceed 400 million people, but that's not the story. The story is that Nigeria is going to be more populous than United States of America. Now, population on its own does not necessarily mean value. Are we together? Population on its own does not necessarily mean value. But if we are talking about a population, productive people who are busy, like you have in China or in India, then it becomes wonderful. Okay? So, we have human capital, very upwardly mobile people. Everybody knows what Nigerians do outside Nigeria. They all succeed. I mean, forget about, most times it appears a lot of people get a lot of, excitement, pushing the few negative publicity we have. Reality is that the average Nigerian outside Nigeria, and even in Nigeria, is a very hard-working person. Working very hard. So, if we get some things right, it means that it is possible that if our human capital is harnessed, it's going to make a show of whatever we get from oil and gas. Imagine if every energy, every attention the oil and gas industry gets today, that somebody gives 60% of that attention to developing our human capital, we'll be on fire. Now, let's look at remittances. Next slide, please. So, I have data for 2021 to 2024. I don't know if you see this clearly, but this should be orange. The orange bar is remittances. So for 2021, the total remittances to Nigeria was about $21 billion. In that same year, we made about $23 billion from oil. In 2022, remittances to Nigeria, $21.9 billion. We made $35.7 billion in oil, and so on. Now, but I have some caveats. One is that this is remittances coming from official channel. Anytime any one of us sitting here travels, most times there is somebody in America or in Europe or wherever you went to that will give you $100. I say, please, when you get back to Nigeria, give to my mother. It is not captured here. Now, with the advent of blockchain and other, means of, moving assets, some of the monies coming in are actually not captured. But what it's important is that imagine all the effort, all the killing in Niger Delta, all the politicking going on. See how close what we get from oil is to what we get from remittances. Imagine what will happen if we have a deliberate strategy in Nigeria to develop our people to the point where they become professionals and export them. In fact, they are going to export themselves. And when they export themselves, they make money and they remit money back to our economy. That's a natural thing. When people travel, they remit money. Imagine if we have that level of intentionality, how it's going to expand the value or volume of remittances that come into the country. So with this information, can I see the next slide, please? You begin to wonder, indeed, is natural resources our biggest asset, or is it our people, our human capital? Those of you young people seated here today are actually way more important than the natural resources. If there is a deliberate program to harness your capabilities, channel you on the way you should go, the country will be better off. Almost all the big tech companies today are run by Indians, from Alphabet to Microsoft to IBM to Adobe. I mean, I have some of them listed here. They are all run by Indians. Now, the remittance for India is also listed. I have data from 2010, but the data I find very interesting is the 2022, 2023, and 2024 remittance data for India. 107 billion, 110 billion, 129 billion. This is what Indians in diaspora send back to India. Now, some of us in tech understand how the whole world is littered with Indians. And not just Indians driving cabs. I'm talking about professionals in the technology space. Now, beyond the remittances, when you have people of this quality running Fortune 500 companies in the US and most of Europe, the kind of political power or influence they can shift in favor of their country will be unprecedented. So, the India is an interesting case study of what can happen when a people nurture their human capital and it becomes some sort of asset for the country. So, if what we're doing in Enugu here today, the Honorable Commissioner has promised us, and I had a small chat, a chat by the side with him, and he said, the next one is going to be better than this one. There are going to be subsequent ones that will make Enugu the front and center when it comes to technology incubation. One of my engagements with His Excellency recently, interestingly, one of the slides I'm going to share something he also told me. He said to me, Kingsley, do you know how hard and how long you're going to run a business for it to have a 10-digit capitalization? So you set up a factory today, you set up a real estate business, you set up any kind of business. You know how long you're going to run it for it to have a 10-digit capitalization? It may never happen in your lifetime. But a flutter wave in less than 10 years is capitalized to $3 billion. $3 billion, let's put it in context. The most capitalized bank today in Nigeria, I think, is Zenith Bank. And their total capitalization, I think, should be around 1.9 trillion naira. 1.9 trillion naira is about 1.6 or 1.7 billion dollars. So what it means is that Flutterwave, with a single check, can actually buy out all the banks in Nigeria. Now, these banks have been run by professionals, slaving day and night, working for decades to build banks that are that solid. But a bunch of young guys, like some of you seated here today, come up with a very good idea, stand by it, nurture it, and in less than 5 or 10 years, they have a capitalization that exceeds the total capitalization of all the banks in the country. Is it not worth giving attention? Are we here? So, we have some, the next 2 slides, please. The next slide, I think. Yeah, this one. So what we have here is just a simple, an extract of some success case stories from Nigeria. So you have unicorns are essentially tech startup companies that have attained a $1 billion valuation. They are called unicorns, okay? So these are some unicorns from Nigeria. InterSwitch, valuation by 2019 is $1 billion. Flutterwave, 2021, $3 billion. OPay, 2021, $2 billion. Wave, Andela, cheaper, And interestingly, InterSwitch was my last project in Accenture. I used to work for Accenture as a technology consultant. InterSwitch was at some point, it was an idea on my laptop with my colleagues that I was working with. That idea eventually became a business, became an industry platform, became a huge success. The good thing is that by the time you get involved in some of this, process of incubating businesses, do the first one, whether it succeeds or not, you do the second one, what happens is that you begin to grow your muscle, okay, and get more comfortable doing it, and get more confident doing it also. The starting a new one becomes less difficult. Now, InterSwitch was that regular to me, but today, InterSwitch is such an industry solution that you cannot imagine Nigeria without InterSwitch. That is what happens when a good idea is evolved to solve a problem in the society using technology. Today, we have companies like Greenage and Pat Shop. Greenage is, in fact, the gentleman from US that spoke, talked about Greenage. Greenage is a massive success story. Its valuation today is exceeding about $10 million. But Greenage was an idea with some smart guys from this part of the world. In fact, the guy who, and they all graduated from universities in, Godwin was in UNN. Yeah. These were smart guys like you guys seated here today. Are you hearing me? Like you guys, a couple of years ago, they were not sure of anything. But they had an idea, they had a thought, they gave it their attention, they started presenting it to people, and they presented it to us at Genesis Tech Hub. And when they presented it to us, we liked their idea. They were talking about green energy, renewable energy, alternative energy. But beyond that, we saw a bunch of smart, very hungry, and clear-headed men, young boys. And you couldn't but listen to them and support them. So we supported them at that stage. With that little support we gave them, they moved on. At some point, they started getting funding from other investors outside Nigeria. Today, Greenage is doing wonderful things. The same thing, Pat Shop, is also another idea we incubated at Genesis Tech Hub here in Enugu. And what was it? A group of boys felt that it is actually possible to use technology to drive the distribution of automobile parts and accessories. So instead of going to Camp or going to Ladepo if you're in Lagos, or depending on Sikiru or Lukman, that's usually what the mechanics answer. I don't know why, but that's forever. The average mechanic in Lagos is Sikiru or Lukman. So instead of depending on Sikiru or Lukman for your parts, you go to patshop.com, you log on, you get the part you want, you pay for it, the part gets delivered to you or to your mechanic or wherever you want it delivered. An idea coming from some young people like you guys seated here today. So, if you have any job you're supposed to do, if you have any responsibility, it is to scale down on distractions and begin to look for moments when you can introspect and observe your environment and begin to ask questions. What can I do differently to change the way things are done? What can I do differently to create the kind of value that people are ready to pay for? The day you're going to get a good answer to that, you're on the path to becoming a very successful person. Next slide, please. I'll be very quick. So, why is tech the future? I already talked about global trends. The returns are huge. It's essentially a job creation engine. I mean, its ability to multiply opportunities. For today, you have people who don't even need to get to an office. They stay in their homes. They get a tech job. They write codes. They review codes. They write. They do documentation for projects, and they sit back in their home doing that. Some of them earn as much as $5,000, $10,000 a month. Just doing. So the thing is, you don't even need to set up a business. You don't necessarily need to build the next Andela or the next Greenage. By even learning skills that you can use to support the tech industry, you will make very, very comfortable living. And of course, this one I really like, and I would like to highlight it, which is the cross-sector impact. So technology utilities, technology utilization or technology importance today cuts across industries. Agriculture, retail, manufacturing, banking, health. There is hardly any vertical that you can think about, and you don't see how technology plays a very massive role in that space. So there was a time, next slide. There was a time people would say things like, cash is king, And when it was Queen Elizabeth, some will even tell you that cash is queen. Now, is cash really king? Maybe. In fact, some call it war chest, like your arsenal. So as a businessman, if you run out of cash, you're almost like an infantryman running out of your ammunition. So cash is very important. But guess what? Cash is actually nothing when we're talking about ideas. The guys that have done all these things we talked about, there is no story, there is no part of that story that suggested that any of them had a pot of cash anywhere. None. All they had was the idea. So while indeed cash is king, the reality is that ideas actually rule. The business I told you guys we are doing, which I referred to at the beginning of my presentation, was started with zilch, zero. We did not borrow one kobo from anybody. We did not have anybody invest one kobo. We bootstrapped entirely. But our saving grace was our hard ideas. We had ideas to sell services to tertiary institutions. We had ideas at that time to develop a solution for banks that they were using for ATM reconciliation. If you remember when ATM started initially, failure rates were very high because the quality of the network was very poor. So you want to draw 20,000, your account gets debited for 20,000, but you don't get any money when you put your hand. And for 2 weeks, they've not reversed that transaction. So most of the banks had very huge unsettled, unreconciled items in their books. So we developed a script that they were using to do that reconciliation, and that became a huge success for us. And from there, that was where we had an opportunity to even start working for those banks. Today, as I speak to you, we work for all the banks in Nigeria, doing multi-million-dollar contracts for those banks, delivering world-class solutions for them. And by the way, what I didn't remember to add was that those solutions I talked about were developed there in Enugu by guys like you from this Enugu. In fact, at some point, anytime a new commissioner of police comes into Enugu, I'll quickly run to the commissioner to introduce myself and tell him about my colleagues. Because it was a normal thing, policemen arresting my colleagues in Enugu because they have laptop. And for whatever reasons, I don't know why they liked white cars. They also have a way of buying white Mercedes. So police will always catch them. In fact, I had people who were also not sure of what we're doing, and it was fancy to talk about this Kingsley that showed up in Enugu and put a visa somewhere off on the street and was doing Yahoo with some boys, some small boys. But yeah, it's our own Yahoo. Call it whatever you want. But the truth is that we started creating value and we started getting reward for the value we're creating. And I'm saying this to encourage somebody here. And I hope I'm doing a good job at that. So, ideas rule. When His Excellency was talking, he highlighted some of these things, but I'm not sure all of us got it. Uber is the biggest cab company in the world, but they don't own one single taxi. Alibaba is the biggest aggregator of goods in the world, but Alibaba doesn't own one single inventory. Airbnb has more rooms than Marriott, Hilton, all the hotel brands put together. Of course, Netflix. So, all these guys did was create solutions using technology. Simple solutions using technology. In fact, the real heavy lifting, if you ask me, you know what the real heavy lifting is? The real heavy lifting is in being able to distill that service, that thing, that unique thing you can do to the society that will help solve problems and create value for you. The moment you're able to make that identification, and then of course surround yourself with the right people, and then with the kind of ecosystem today that the governor of Enugu State and his wonderful commissioner are building for tech, you will not run short of the people you're going to run to without your idea to say, oh, I have this wonderful idea. How can you help me realize it? An idea. Just one idea. One good idea, your life is changed. So, my last few slides. Next one and the one after that, and I'm done. What I have here are some statistics of the things we've done. Genesis Tech Hub, we've trained over 4,000 people, 65% of them gainfully employed, 13% of them have very successful businesses, and 16% of them are mentors and facilitators to other people who have ideas to do the same kind of stuff. We have about 19 schools participating. By the way, what we're doing today, we're also gradually taking into the tertiary institutions and secondary schools around us. With respect to talent outsourcing, we also outsource some of these guys we've trained. In fact, in MTN, in Stanbic, in some clients, I don't want to start mentioning names here, we have hundreds of people we've trained here in Enugu working for those guys in our source capacity. We have supported about 203 startups participating in our startup support program. We have what we call Start Zone. Start Zone is an environment we've created at Genesis Tech Hub where we nurture people with ideas, providing them with all the things they need, to get that ideas to bring it to life. And then we spent about $850,000 investing in some of those ideas that we'll find interesting. Now, when I was preparing this slide, next slide please, and I was looking at what you would consider key success factors, or what you would consider requirements from government. Honestly, this is not me trying to sound politically correct. Of course, all of us, is either you're in Enugu or you visited Enugu, they don't need to explain to anybody what is happening in Enugu, that it is transformational. We've never had it this good. But the point is that the roads you're seeing, this beautiful place you're seeing, to me, is not even the real thing happening in Enugu. The real thing happening in Enugu are some of the soft things that their real value will begin to come out in the next 10 years. You know one of them? You know the Smart School program? A bomb. The Smart School program will change the character of Enugu for life. Imagine what it means, because there is one in my village, by the way. Imagine what it means that some guy in my village will go to primary school, go to secondary school. By the way, it is free. Eat good food, and now have access to learning materials that some people living in Lagos do not have. Imagine what will happen to the life of that young person. It's going to be transformational. Imagine what will happen to the lives of all the young people growing up in different parts of Enugu. And these are locations that were previously decoupled from what you may want to call civilization. That is the real transformation happening in Enugu. Okay? So, and that is happening because there is a government and a governor who understands that you cannot keep giving 2% of your budget to education. It is too paltry to bring about the change that is desired. So today, Enugu State government spends 33% of their budget on education. It is transformational. Imagine if that happens for the next 2 years, next 8 years, or next 6 years, that's 2 years, 8 years in total. And Enugu State continues to spend 33% of their budget on education, producing quality people. Enugu will become the next Silicon Valley. Now, the final slide. There are quite a number. So, still talking about what has happened in Enugu. I talked about the smart schools. I talked about the Just one, please. I talked about the smart schools. I talked about, 33% being committed to budget. I talked about I was going to talk about the fact that with all this, the governor, I went to see him recently, and we were talking. And he said, oh, Kingsley, by the way, I met this gentleman, Godwin. Remember the green age I talked about? He said, I was very excited with what the guy had to say about what they were doing in power. Anyway, I have given them a 4 billion naira contract to provide power to all the smart schools. You see, I almost was going to leap off the table. So for me, it's not that some guy that I know or a company we supported got contract. No. The tech ecosystem thrives on several things that has to, all of them must work together for success to come. One of them is that kind of move from the governor. When a business is incubated in your state and you see something that business can do, government has capacity. Government has the kind of capacity that private individuals or corporations can't even muster. And then you give such a business 4 billion naira project. What it means is that you have reduced the need for that business to be running around looking for where to raise money. So what it means is that when other tech ideas begin to hear that the government of Enugu is friendly to tech businesses that are coming up in Enugu, this becomes a destination. And in physics, you know about resonance. There is, at that point where, things resonate, when you attain the resonance frequency, where everything just works like magic and you get like, boom. That is what that will do. So, Enugu is just at a very interesting time. It's almost like that moment when you have wings under your wings, and you're soaring like the eagle. So, what we're trying to do with where we are now is to scale. So we've done some small thing as Genesis. Enugu state government is doing wonderful things, but just as a state government, we are looking for how we can work with other stakeholders and scale. And that is what the West African Stargate is all about. So the West African Stargate is essentially a framework that has been developed that is intended to use to take this story across the entire West Africa. And somebody will say, oh, why are you doing West Africa when you could have done Nigeria? No. You see, good ideas are not geography agnostic. Good ideas can come up from Kenya as much as it can come up from Lagos or Enugu. So when you spread, what you do is you attain scale. And you attain scale in every respect. You attain scale in terms of your reach for VCs. You attain scale in terms of your reach for good ideas. You attain skills in terms of your reach for quality training. So, as we continue to make progress with what we're doing using the West African Stargate, I hope that some of us and all of us seated here today have listened, and there are 5 people at least who will live here determined to change their lives so that they can change their mother's life and change the life of their community and change the life of Enugu State. Thank you very much.
You can do better than that. For Dr. Kingsley Eze, Tennessee. I'm sure you felt his energy. You can see Ellen DeGeneres said that the most important thing is youth. You can see that oozing. You can, please, another round of applause for him. Very quickly, I would like to call onto the stage the Group Managing Director of Afri Invest West Africa and the Board Chairman of the Enugu State Security Trust Fund. He will be speaking on unlocking local capital, how financial institutions can fuel Enugu's tech growth. Ladies and gentlemen, help me as I call on stage Dr. Ike Chioke. You can do better than that, please. He had to take off his tie. So you are in for something intellectually sumptuous. Please, another round of applause for him. I like the way he took off his tie. Reminded me of Hulk Hogan in the 80s. And just for a bit of information, we'll still hear from Obi Kubana. Please put your hands together for him. Dr. Choke.
Thank you. It's good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished speakers. First of all, I'd like to stand on all existing protocol by thanking His Excellency the Governor for supporting this festival. I must say I was really shocked when I got here this morning to see the crowd. I never expected anything like this. I know this is a 3,000 capacity hall, and to see it filled to the brim and people in external buildings just shows the incredible work that has been done. I've been asked to speak about how tech startups can find funding. I think that's coming from the fact that my background is in finance and banking. While waiting for the guys to load up my presentation, I'll give you a bit of background. I'm from Enugu State, Obioma, Enugu, the local government to be specific. And I think my first primary school, after going to the village school at St. Teresa's, Obioma, was to go to St. Patrick's Primary School in Colcamp. So my formative years, I grew up in Colcamp in Enugu before my dad got promoted and we moved to GRA. And then the rest, as I say, is history. While at GRA, I studied at Ekulu Primary School. And from there, I got admitted to Federal Government College in Jos. And for many years, traveled to Jos by rail. Yes, the Nigerian Railway was working back in those days. And also sometimes by bus. Once by air, when my dad wanted to reward me for a job well done in school. And then from there to Ile-Ife. The Obafemi Awolowo University was then called University of Ife. I undertook the BSc in Civil Engineering and graduated with a first class. Thank you. And from Ile-Ife, I did my NYSC in Antba, what was then Benue State, but is now part of Kogi State. After doing my NYSC, I went on to, I'm still waiting for this presentation to come on. Okay, you can still talk. I went on to join Arthur Andersen, one of the leading accounting and audit firms back then, which was where I took my first formal job. And then from Arthur Andersen, is the presentation going to come on? Really? Okay. I think we may have a technical problem. Then I'm just going to go off script. Well, this is the first tech hub in Enugu with the theme of going from coal to code. I've been asked to speak about unlocking capital, how financial institutions can fuel Enugu's tech growth. They're having some technical difficulties loading my presentation on the screen, but to save time, I'm just going to go ahead and share with you some of the thoughts. Over the last 5 years, we've seen an interesting trend in monies raised from venture capital firms and private equity firms for tech companies across Africa. Indeed, in 2019, the total amount raised was $2.5 billion. It peaked in 2021 with a total amount raised of $6.9 billion. But since then, we've seen a gradual decline, and last year, only $3.5 billion was raised across Africa by tech companies, of which the venture capital groups contributed $2.2 billion, and then the PE firms brought in $1.3 billion. And that gives you sort of, in a nutshell, the opportunity for tech companies in the fundraising space. We've seen that trend of decline has also impacted Nigeria. We have the presentation on. Has also impacted Nigeria. I'm on page, let's go to page 2, please. Next page. Yes. So this is what I was trying to explain. We've seen fundraising for tech companies peak at $6.9 billion in 2021, but as Klein trying to explain, there needs to be more discernment. They need to actually investigate those ideas more carefully. And so people are not throwing money away as they used to do, as in those days. Next slide. You can see how the trend of fundraising has gone across parts of Africa. See what has come to West Africa. Specifically, in 2021, we saw $1.7 billion of fundraising. But just last year, we only saw $300 million. That just tells you that, money is getting tighter, and investors are much more discriminating. Next slide. Next slide. If you look at the composition of the funding, you can see there are different categories. Some of you may be more familiar with seed financing, Series A or Series B, or when you are now at the growth funding. But the seed stage is when you have just an idea and you think it could work, and maybe you've saved a little bit of money from some of the work you've been doing in school, or you can call on family and friends to help you. Easily something as little as 5 million naira can help you put an idea together. And that's when you are at the seed stage. Once you have actually demonstrated that what they call there's a minimum value proposition for that business, you built the framework, you can then begin to consider doing a Series A financing. And once that's beginning to run and show some traction, you get to the level of Series B, and subsequently you can then, if you're still in business, you can then start thinking about growth financing. So that sort of shows you the trend. In 2024, we saw about $2.2 billion combination of all the financings from venture capital firms in Africa for the digital economy. Next slide. The big 4 tech countries in Africa are Egypt, Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa. And you can see, despite all the challenges we think that we have in our country, Nigeria is actually by far the biggest share in terms of attracting fundraising from the tech industry. In 2021, we saw a $1.8 billion come into the country, although it has since dropped to 410, but it's still quite a significant number. I have to say that the only country that's showing a different trend across is Kenya, where in 2021 they were just at $370 million, and as of last year, they are $640 million. So there's need for young tech entrepreneurs to come out with more creative ideas that work within the framework of the local economy that can attract the interests of venture capitalists and private equity firms. Next slide. Now, coming closer to home, you see the startup funds raised in Nigeria, as I explained, has declined from $1.8 billion in 21 to $410 million. But still, 410 is actually more money that has gone into the tech sector that has actually come in as new capital in terms of equity capital in the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So that tells you how resilient and important the tech space is in terms from a fundraising point of view. Now, let's go to Enugu State. Next slide. Nigeria today boasts over 3,300 tech startups, with Lagos controlling the lion's share, over 70% of that number, with 2,352 tech startups. These statistics are as of 2024. Now, Enugu actually falls within the top 5 states that have tech startups in the country. After Lagos, you have, I think it's Ibadan. No, Abuja at 168, controlling 5% share. Then Oyo State, Ibadan, 151 tech startups, 6% share. And then Enugu at 101. We are counting on you guys to continue to innovate. And we're counting on my friend Kingsley to continue to push his tech up so we can create more tech startups and attract more funding into Enugu. And this conference is certainly one way to do that. Next slide. And here we just show some of the notable tech fundraisings that happened last year. You see some of the companies you know, $110 million last year in the Series C financing. If you go to Move Mobility, they did $100 million in Series B financing. There are a few ones like Class EduTech, just $1 million pre-seed. Cleaver, $1.5 million pre-seed. But it just shows you there's quite a dynamic market for fundraising from the tech for VCs and PE firms in the sector. Now, what is the criteria for raising money? This assumes that you have that key proposition, you have a unique idea that you can use to raise money. And that criteria will be amongst the following. Next slide. It's the revenue model you develop as well as its expected profitability. You as a founder, who are the other people around you, like your board members, the strength of your team, what is the traction and the performance metrics you've shown in terms of your business model, and what is the competitive advantage and differentiation that you can project. Those are some of the key criteria that investors will look at when you come for private equity funding. And the kind of investors that you're likely to meet. Next slide. Amongst the venture capitalists that you're likely to come into town would be who are focused on Nigeria. You have the likes of Ingressive Capital, Cree Ventures, Future Africa, Telcom Capital, Eco Venture Capital, Alethea Partners, Venture Platforms, Launch Africa, and Lofty Inc. in Capital. Quite a number of these firms have representation in Lagos or Abuja, but you can find them online and, for sure find ways to get your ideas to them. And next slide. For financial institutions who are involved in the tech fundraising space, what do we look for? How can we help? The question is many financial institutions may have startup-friendly loan products. Indeed, some of the major banks have tech funds they've made available. I know that Access Bank has a tech hub, and they actually serve as an incubator. And in some cases, you can work through them. As partnership, you can build with angel networks and co-investment platforms. Some of these partnerships, some of you are familiar with, even include crowdfunding platforms. And of course, when your business has scaled and it's more sustainable, things like convertible debt or revenue-based sharing, in which case they take a percentage of the turnover. If it's 2% or 5%, some people can fund that. And then you've got tech-focused SME desk. I mentioned that GT Bank and Access, plus what Tennessee is doing here in Enugu can be one area of accessing funding. I'll take you through some of these loan products. Next slide. If you're able to find this kind of loan products, they're usually low interest or collateral free because you really don't have the asset base as a young person. All you have is your idea, perhaps with flexible repayment schedules, which will help you overcome those barriers to entry, that you meet when you're starting up. Convertible debt would be for a company that's already a bit more established. They've gone through the pre-seed stage and they're in the Series A and B stage, would allow you to raise funds without giving up equity. Obviously, once you have an idea that is sellable, investors may want to take more than a significant chunk of your equity, and that is really what is left for you. So if you take it as a convertible debt, then it allows you to be able to pay back when the company is making cash flow or convert some of that debt to equity later. Next slide. These two talked about partnership with angel networks and SME desks at various banks. We'll discuss that. Let's move on. But one key thing to note is that getting the idea right is critical, and being able to establish sort of a tech-focused hub in Enugu will help you find people who you can compare those ideas with, because it's from that point of view that you're able to see the pros and cons of those ideas and whether it's resilient enough for fundraising. And in particular is that we should not forget that government can be a big source of funding. One of the things that I find sometimes is how there are many glaring opportunities that the government has announced, but our tech sector may be focusing on some place else. I'll give you an example, and Kingsley talked about it. Alignment with government objectives and policies. Here in Enugu, the government has announced a bold and ambitious smart school program, and is already on its way to completing 260 smart schools across all the 260 wards in the state. If you guys come together and start thinking, what kind of technology, what kind of enablement would they need to run a smart school? And you focus your energy in that direction. You already have someone who is already, he's committed to the sector. Education is critical. How do we make sure we enable the governor's idea to take effect? And it needs brilliant, fresh minds to think through that carefully. Once you have an alignment, it's easier for you to actually to go to the government and say, I've developed this application that will make your job in delivering education through the smart schools more efficient, quicker, and cheaper. You certainly already have a customer. You already have an investor who can actually give you that step up that you've been looking for. So aligning your ideas to government objectives and policies can be extremely helpful. In that context, governance and regulatory compliance, obviously, you'll be critical. You need to have set up as a company that they can engage with. And, some of those experiences you can learn from your colleagues in university. I remember a lecturer at UNN came to me and asked if I could support one of the faculties by installing a solar power so they can, do their classes all through the day. At least we have the electricity for the microphones and the audiovisual equipment to work. And I said, okay, this is Faculty of Economics at UNN. What about, where's the business plan? Where is the document that says this is the capacity of solar energy you need? And so this is the size of batteries needed. These are the number of solar panels you require. And he said, no, we don't have that. That you want me, he wants me to send my own team to Nsukka to do the evaluation. And I said, Prof, this doesn't make sense. And then there's already faculty of engineering, electrical engineering. All you need is for the students in economics to go to engineering and get them to do that assessment for them. And then they have a report you can give me. But for me to come from Lagos and send a team to Nsukka to find out what you need so I can pay for it shows you have not done your homework. And in the same way, the reason I underscore that point is that oftentimes people come for fundraising, but they've not looked at some basic issues around them, like the legal structure. But they have a friend as a lawyer, or, your friend as a lawyer can help you set that, clarify that one. Or if you're going to make a building, okay, you think the building is going to cost 200 million, but you have a friend that is an engineer. He will have told you that thing won't cost more than 25. So be careful to leverage on all your friends and relations who have experience. That helps you to put your plans together. Obviously, socioeconomic impact can affect what government can do. And if you do your homework, you'll be able to actually have a proper assessment of the risks that investors are looking at. So you'll be ready to respond with appropriate answers at that time. So, next slide. How can Enugu State assist tech startups? I think there are clear areas where the state is helpful. Policy shaping, enabling policies for pro-startup financial regulations, obviously giving some tax benefits. Coming out of this Tech Fest event like this, we can take some of these ideas back through the commissioner to the state. Infrastructure support, maybe public-private arrangements to develop more tech hubs. The sort of work that Tennessee has done, trained 4,000 people over a few years. We can think of how to quadruple that or go to 20 times that number, given the number of students around the university ecosystem in the state. And then lastly, co-creating an Enugu Tech investment roundtable, like what we are doing now. As more companies raise funding, they should come and share those ideas so that people can understand how they succeeded in their journey, and that will help educate other people. And the last slide of my presentation, opportunities for local capital. Next slide. Don't forget to look around you. Charity always begins at home. By the time you leave your home and forget to speak to your uncles or aunties or brothers and sisters who actually have means, if you believe you have such a great idea, try and talk to people around you. And you may find that you can unlock capital through connections. There's a saying that there's 6 degrees of separation. You are no more than 6 contacts to the most important person you need to reach. And you may need to know someone like Kingsley, but you don't have his number. But if you check amongst your circle of friends and family, you may find 1 or 2 people that know somebody that knows him. And that's how you begin to unlock your way to capital. So that will help you create localized funding strategies. We shouldn't forget the diaspora. You saw that just last year, over $20 billion was remitted by the diaspora. So even that can be a steady source of financing. You'll be looking for 2 million naira here. For somebody in America, it's just $1,200. And he can easily send it to you, and that could solve your problem to get somewhere. And of course, once we get towards a more organized structure, we can start building a state guarantee system to support some of the tech ecosystem and enable more tech startups to germinate. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for listening, and I hope, last slide, that we can take some learnings out of this. Thank you very much indeed. AfriInvest is an investment banking firm. Today, we are diversified across all sectors of the Nigerian economy, from issuing house business, where we raise money for companies and governments. We have asset management. We manage money for investors, big and small and in between. Stock brokerage. We're a member of the Nigerian Exchange, and you can trade through our apps on the Nigerian Nigerian Exchange, or actually trade with our Optimus app to buy U.S. stocks right here in Nigeria. We own a fintech business called Andromeda, which has a platform Optimus by AfriInvest. We are the jersey sponsor for Rangers Football Club, and you might see when Rangers are playing on their jersey, you have the name AfriInvest. And I have committed to His Excellency that by the end of this year, I would have established an AfriInvest office in Enugu. And we'll be looking for young people like you to join us. So thank you very much.
Please, you can do more than that. You can do more than that. If you must know, when Dr. Ikechioke identified interest to be the official sponsor of Rangers, Rangers actually lifted Nigerian Premier League's trophy for the past 30 years. So he did well. I would like you to understand that tomorrow will be panel sessions and teachings upon teachings on tech. You are also going to be afforded the opportunity to explore. I just cited the secretary to the government of Enugu State, Professor Chidiebere Onya. Please appreciate him. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Some have asked what is my name. For those who don't know, my name is Mondi Diamond. Or people call me Odozi Obodo. Thank you. The man I want to call to the stage is a man you will always love to see. He is an expert in hospitality business. He's also making money in social media. He's also invested heavily in transportation and real estate. Owner of several clubs and lounges in Nigeria and beyond the shores of Africa. The man who has made so many men. Hence, he was called Okpato Zuora. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about no other person but Mr. Obinna Iyebu, a.k.a. Obi Kubana. Continue clapping. You've clapped for Obi Iyebu. Clap for Obi Kubana. What follows or no gay?
Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. For those who are still very patient to be here, because when I came here, the hall was packed. But looking around now, I can see some people left, maybe because of other engagements, maybe because of hunger. But next time they're organizing this kind of events, please let there be slight refreshments. Because people, I know, it's not easy to sit down here for hours listening to big English. Yeah? But, I mean, we're almost there. Let me stand on the existing protocol to address you this evening. I mean, when my younger brother and partner, Mr. Go, reached out to me and said there will be this tech seminar in Enugu, I replied him, let me look at my calendar. And then I checked and I was supposed to be in London. He stressed on the importance of me coming around to, when he mentioned that is going to be about the youth. You know, at a point, I'm in the youth. But you know, our youth, they get coconut head. But I think this is a very clean crowd. And today, you have been listening, and I know that most of you will go out here with one or two information you need to grow and you need to succeed. So I said I had to come back and go back again so I can be able to interact. And then I came here with my prepared speech and a lot, but looking at you guys today, I think I will speak from my heart. I just marshaled down some points, and I have been asked to speak on this topic, the future of wealth in our Igbo. Why Igbo business leaders must invest in technology. Every other speaker that has come and gone, they were corporately dressed, wearing suit, but me, I'm wearing a red because I didn't know it was going to be this kind of formal setting, but I love it because we have to represent the tribe. I mean, tech, like every speaker here has said, is the future. I remember I was gisting somebody some other time. I said, when the first time I went on honeymoon, that was like 17 years ago with my wife, we noticed that at the business class cabin of the flight, there were mostly Arabs there. When we got to shop at Old Bond Street then, you go to Burberry, you go to Gucci, you go to all these places, you could see the Arab women covering their faces, spending money. And you will be calculating exchange rate, and they'll be spending a lot of money. Fast forward to today, if you enter any flight right now, you see a particular type of people, the Chinese. Go to the most expensive parts of the world right now, the Chinese, they have taken over. Why? Because of tech. The tech is the future. And for us in Anibo, there is a problem that we have been trying to solve, which is transfer of wealth from one generation to the next generation. Growing up, we had a lot of people, rich people, or people who we thought were rich. Lines of businesses, chains of businesses. And then the moment the person passes, you notice that the business fizzles away. Everybody, I don't know how they do that. Now, with tech, I mean, that's one thing called the globe is a revolving, it's revolving, and you have to catch up with time so that the world do not leave you behind. I'll tell you guys a very interesting story about time, taking opportunities, and then keying in. When we were growing up, my parents had two vehicles, 504. We had a mechanic then. His name was Emagriza. Fantastic mechanic. He was doing amazing things. And as time passed by, other cars started coming to Nigeria. You could start seeing the Belgian vehicles trooping into Nigeria, Japanese vehicles, and our mechanic, Emma, was still doing Peugeot. Some other people went out to go and learn about these new things coming in. And then so that they could know how to move with time. And then our mechanic kept on doing Peugeot. The Peugeot in Obaden, they were reducing in number. You could notice that every day you can't find them. You could see Flatboot taking over, Opel taking over, Nissan Sunny taking over. Our mechanic was doing Peugeot until at a point there was not a single Peugeot in Oba. So each time you passed there, you could see him sitting down. Say, how is it? You respond, how can Njafia not bore you when you refuse to grow with time, to move with time? So this is tech o'clock. And as Ndafibo, we should find a way to factor in this moving trend. I know it's been there. When Chief Leo Frank was talking, you could see he has been in the business 40 years, 40 years. It's a very long time, 4 decades. But it is still a new thing. It's still a very green untapped area because it's multi, it has a lot of channels we can key into. We should be able to find a way to factor in our wealth, however little it is, to take, to be able to move with time. Leo said he did not study tech. I think he read economics. Me, I read political science. But I am a master of every business. Trust me. Okay? So you must not actually be grounded on tech for you to be part of it. We created a game called Hammer Games. And I will tell you for free, it's the best game ever produced by an African. Hugo and the team here, when they came, and then me, I was like, let's make a phone. I have this dream. Let's own this phone, made by young Africans, developed by young Africans. We grow it. We have the platform. Hugo looked at me and said, yes, this sounds very good, but everybody is doing this. Let's do something everybody is not doing. And then he came up with these Hammer Games. Fantastic. The features are one of one. And then if you play, like we've taken it across the world in Nigeria, and people who have rated this say, this is world class. What am I trying to say? I did not sit back and say, I'm into hospitality and entertainment. What business do I have with tech? I had to key in because the world is revolving. The world is revolving. It's not what is fashionable today that will be fashionable tomorrow. So there are lots of ways we can make this to be part of us. In Ali, what I'm talking about right now. And in here, there are a lot of Elon Musk here, there are a lot of Jeff Bezos, and there are a lot of Obi Kubana here in this crowd. So, I know everybody will be talking about startup capitals. I mean, the experts have spoken about it. But I will tell you that the most powerful asset you need to possess for you to be able to have access to funds, help, or anything is integrity and credibility. Once you have these two assets, I'm telling you, there are a lot of people who are there looking out to where to invest. A lot of people here, your brains are hot. I mean, you carry a laptop. If somebody somewhere can sit down in Nigeria and be on a system and you convince somebody who you have never seen, you've never had a visa to go abroad, and you're able to use a God-given talent to take money from somebody's account into another person's account, I believe that same gift, you can use it to build generational wealth. The other one is transient. Money will come, money will go. But you can build something that's going to outlive you, that's going to outlive your own generation. And then this is what I call the power of powerful collaborations. The fact that you have this does not mean you have that. Okay? So you guys can come together and say, okay, this one has the power or the knowledge to build, this person has the knowledge to improve, this person have the knowledge to disseminate and everything. I mean, you guys come together and collaborate. All these other big companies, even what do you call it, Elon Musk, there are a group of people behind him. He's not just there. He's just like maybe he comes up with the ideas and everything. So here we are all we have. I'm Abundibo. And it's a call on everybody to come up with what you can have. Growing up, we had stories about during the war, how our people were able to make Obunigwe, were able to make bunkers out of nothing, to make some, to refine red oil, to fly aircrafts. I mean, that means the gift is already in us. We have it in us to do certain things. The environment might be harsh, the environment might be hostile, but we have it in us. And I want us to channel the energy to positive doings. You can channel the energy to positive doings. You don't need to take from somebody to be able to live the kind of lifestyle you know you cannot be able to sustain. Okay? We every day, yes, I know some of you might say some of us do things, but we have to keep the culture going. And we have to show you that we do not pluck the money from the tree. This is what we do every day. The records are there. For the past 2 decades, we've been grinding, no sleep, no rest. And then you can also do the same and then do way bigger than us. Why this tech is also very important, and which I try to tell some of my friends who are doing some kind of conventional businesses, I say that the Gen Zs of today, the Gen Alphas and everybody, they might not be interested in the kind of business we are doing today. You know, those days, there's what we call one boy apprenticeship. I mean, you have to stay a whole 5-7 years with a master to learn the trade. And then they settle you, start your own shop. I mean, nobody is patient anymore. People do not want to follow that route. What they do right now is things, I mean, the kind of thing that bring money right now might not be the kind of thing that used to bring money decades ago. So it's left for people who have actually made this world to say, how do I protect this world? How do I keep this legacy in the family? How do I multiply this thing so that my children can actually take it from there? Because the kids we said abroad today might not come back. My kids might not come back to come and do this Kubernetes thing I'm doing. They said, Daddy, what are you talking about? I have my own plans in life. Okay? So for the people who have the opportunity, I mean, there are young brains here who have it in here, but don't have it in the pocket. They need all the support. As long as what they are doing is genuine, as long as whatever they are doing is legitimate, we can create generational wealth. It doesn't have to be, you don't really need to be a tech guru for you to invest or to make great impact in tech. I mean, and then you don't have to keep the knowledge that God has given you. Come out and say, this is what I have been able to do. I need help. How can we move this into reality? A lot of people die with their dreams, big dreams. Startup is the greatest problem. Startup capital is the greatest problem we have here. Nobody listens to you. But once you are doing it, you see offers from left, right, and center because they know that whatever investment they are doing with you is safe. Nobody wants to take the initial risk. So, but if you have something that you are convinced that I have developed this, every day you see on my DP, people, DM, I have this app, I have this app, I have this. It's not only app you guys have to develop. There are a lot of things to be developed. There is the health sector. There is the gaming sector. There is the, even in farming, right now, it's everything about tech. Even about farming. When we started this our business right now, you used to count money manually, everything. Until they said there was something called POS. And then today with POS, I can tell you can do an entire business from Fridays to Sunday. On Monday, you can do turnover of 5 million, 10 million naira, and you don't have up to 100,000 naira cash. Everything is right now like. So people actually sat down to invent this kind of things. I sat down with a team of guys yesterday from Money Point, and they were analyzing to me the growth of the company. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed at what Money Point has been able to do. You'll be amazed at the kind of numbers they were churning out last night. And I say this money is not even up there, it's under here. Because they're able to reach to the market women, to the villages, and then tell you, okay, take this POS, collect your money. Those other big banks might not be able to have the patience to go and do all those things. So there are a lot of opportunities down there, mid-class, up there, for people to make. So what have you been able to build? What have you been able to develop? What are you working on? The fact that it does not work today does not mean it will not work tomorrow. It can work. You persevere. You keep pushing. Have that patience. Keep pushing. And then pray. Because help can come from anywhere. Especially unexpected quarters. The person you might be looking up to that this your Messiah might not actually be there for you on the last day. But as far as you solidly know what you have developed, and then you are confident that when you are called to come and defend the project you have done, you will stand before everybody and defend it. I mean, people will take interest. I'm sure that by the time we leave here, some of you guys will have interactive session with a lot of people, and then they will listen to your ideas. What have you built? What can you build? What can you do? Nothing is self-free on this earth. And I know for you guys to have spent your time to be here, That means you either want to give or to learn. Either you want to show the world what you have done, or you want to learn more to add to what you can do. So I believe that nobody here will leave here the same by the time we are done with all this, because I've seen, by the time I came in, the people that spoke before me, tech gurus, great minds, people who have made it in life, and I said, no, I can't compete on this topic. Let me deviate and then do more of motivational speaking today. So, because the youth of every nation is the future of that particular nation. I remember those days we used to, every Monday you go to my page, I talk about their youth. You might think they are not listening. They are taking one or two things from us. Every move we make, every step we take, people are understudying you. There are people who believe in you that 2 days they don't hear from you, they are worried. What has it got to do? So, this is an opportunity of people coming to meet people who can sit down together, work on things together, come up with great idea, and then develop humanity. Everything we are using today, including the screen, including the microphone, including the handsets we are using today, people sat down to develop them. Poetry, hospitals, whatever it is. There are areas you can play on. There are areas you can play. There are areas you can contribute. Okay? In those days, I mean, once they ask you, what course do you want to read? I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. These days, even if it's hairstylist, there are things you have to apply for it to move you from one point to the other. We started, if I tell you how I started, well, some of you know my story. From a garden, you can call it Mama Put. But here we are today because of focus. Because I know where I'm going to. Okay? So, and then you mustn't be stuck on one particular trade because this is your area of specialization. You can move. Tech is calling. Tech is calling. And I know that most of you guys most of you ladies here, you have one or two to offer. To me and to us in Igbo, this is Tech O'Clock.
Tech is calling, tech is moving, and this is Tech O'Clock. That was from Obi Kubana himself. Please appreciate him once more. Thank you. A very nice one. Why some of you are paying the price to listen to men who have made it in life. Some people are outside this vicinity taking selfie. That is another side of life. Obi Kubana has a partner. And both of them call themselves investor and investee. Educational background brought them together because Obi Kubana is an alumnus of UNN. And the next man is also an alumnus of UNN. The difference is age gap, but both of them understand each other very, very well. But before I forget, the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Nigeria and Nsukka is here, Professor Benjamin Ozumba. Please appreciate him. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow will be a very important day you can't afford to miss because of the things that are to be done tomorrow. Let me not bother you much. Let me invite the young man that created Hammer Games, the young man that created Zen Finance, the young man that has made name and created an app that came first in an exhibition done in far away, far east. I'm talking about a proud son of Igbo land, an alumnus of UNN, Mr. Ugochukwu Arono, first principal engineer. Continue clapping. He's your mate. Olubeo 50. Oh, bye. Movement to get change, you go, my man.
Good evening, everybody. I'm very happy to be here, and I promise not to take your time. Standing on existing protocols, I'm super excited. Why this building first is so dear to me, because I studied in Federal Government College in Enugu. I was born here in Enugu. Anyway, so I studied in Federal Government College in Enugu, I think between 2004 and 2010. And that was when, this place was built. And we always wanted to see it open, but it never opened. And you can imagine from then till now, right? So I really want to thank His Excellency, although he's not here, he's in absentia. I want to thank him for being able to do this amazing work. I've been able to brag, because most times people are always like, Ugo, what are you still doing in Enugu? Right? And I'm like, look, I love this place, but apart from that, with the governor we have, he gives me hope. I don't really care so much about politicians, but after speaking with His Excellency when he got in, I was very impressed. I wasn't talking to a politician, I was talking to a businessman, someone who understood how I thought as a business person as well, and as a tech entrepreneur. So I really love that. And the people in his cabinet reflect him. And there's nothing as good as having people who work with you, reflect you, and carry your vision. So without any further ado, I would like to first state that my background is in engineering. I studied in the University of Nigeria and Soka, Federal Government College, Enugu, International Nursery and Primary School in Transekulu. So I've been here all my life. Although, I'm from Anambra State, but we are all one and the same. And over the years, people have referred to Enugu as a civil service state. And that thing has always, hit me over time, even if I'm in Nigeria or outside Nigeria. Just like, Dr. Obi Kubana just said that he had to come back from London for this event. Actually, I was supposed to be in America tomorrow morning, but I had to travel. I had to block I had to move my flight right to the end of the month. And the reason I did that was, if someone like Obi can bring back his own flight, come in, who am I, right? And looking at what the government has done, I'm like, no, I'll be here for the next 3 days. So seeing us move, thank you. So seeing us move from a civil service state, quote unquote, to where we are now is a miracle, really. And although miracles are, in this case, done by men, I'll give you like a small example. When people say, okay, we're a civil service state, then the next thing is, oh, these guys are complacent. They are very laid back. Well, young at the time, So I was like, we have over 20-something universities, but there is a gold mine for anybody who wants to build anything substantial, especially in the tech space. So I leveraged on that, and then we started building different businesses. So just to quickly go out, over them. First, I think back then we built Zen Finance. Like a lot of people know, we're a DeFi company, we're a crypto or blockchain company. And we got backed by the biggest investors in this space, like Binance and Google. Then moved ahead. We built Obugo that handles food delivery. It's been running here in Enugu for over 8 years now. And built Ycrypt that a lot of people use. Ycrypt, for example, is in over 100 cities and in over 35 countries in the world with more than 1,900 of our hardware. Why that is really interesting is that before now, like people keep saying, the Chinese, we actually just adopt software or hardware from China. Now we're building that from Enugu and shipping to China. China has about 500 of our devices working there in real time. So we're now exporting the technology from Enugu to other parts of the world. And just like the MC said, in 2023, we were number one in the world, building the best operating system for hardware like routers. And we were number one, and we got a grant of $150,000 from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And the grant wasn't the important thing. It was actually what came afterwards. I won't be able to mention now, but one of the biggest telcos in Africa, by telcos, I know you guys know MTN, Glo, yeah. So one of them, which is actually the biggest in Africa, gave us a contract that nobody has received in Africa before to build their new 5G operating system after we had done it. And it wasn't a very nice thing for other people, because before now, this was being done by the Chinese. All the routers you use, your MiFi, they are all built in China. The operating systems are done in China. So when that contract was being given to us, it was a battle, but the team said, look, there's a law in Nigeria called local content. That's also why policies matter. So they said, because there's a law called local content, we need to, and this company has proven to be able to deliver at this level, we have to give it to them. And yes, we actually delivered. At some point, the guys from China, they called me, we had a separate meeting, they were like, look, that what we have is better than what they have, and that they would like to work with us to even, ship it to other service providers they work with. So these things were done from where? From Enugu State. Moving forward, like Obi Kubana mentioned, when we spoke about Hammer Games early on, it was something that didn't really, the conversation just came up, like he mentioned that he wanted us to do something. And I mentioned gaming. Why? Because video games are things that almost everybody here might have played or is playing one. Even older people, right? I'm sorry, my dad, he came here during the course of the event, but he had to leave. I really wish he were here to the end, but then because he was a bit tired, he's much older, but he just stepped in and left. Even people like my dad, my mom, they come across games, they engage, right? And the problem with gaming is that video games are really hard to make. And because they're really hard to make, you see that most people from this part of the world don't even engage. Now, Nigerians alone spend over $300 million every year playing video games. And this money goes to China, it goes to the United States, it goes to Europe. That's what we spend. Although people say that Nigerians don't have money, but trust me, they have money to play games, right? And with this, video games actually generate, the market is almost 0.5 trillion or $500 billion annually. And I looked at it, I'm like, look, there's a market here. A lot of people are not doing this. Why don't we go ahead and do it, right? And that's how we started. And I'm sure some of you must have seen some trailers playing behind. I don't know if you guys can play it. All those things were built here in Enugu by people like you. I'll give you some small background. The current lead engineer across our game companies, the one that is currently leading, we hired him when he was in like second year from university, Unizik, that's Nnamdi Azikiwe University, right? And he was an engineer then, studied electronics engineering, but working on this game company. And that's how even another lead engineer that we hired just also graduated from Unizik. He's actually doing his NYSC now. And these guys are building things that are being used by people in different parts of the world. If you feel like experiencing, we have a hall there where you can go. There's a gaming competition. Go and experience it. So why I'm saying this is that for young people here, there is nothing really you want to do that you can't do. And I think, just in closing, one other thing that excites me about the crop of people we have in Enugu are not just because they are from they go to universities here, but the type of minds that we have. About 3 years ago, someone reached out to me. His name is Ugo, to Mr. Ugo. We wanted to do something different because we always like to do things that other people are not doing, honestly speaking. So he reached out to me and we were speaking, and we said, okay, we want to start a research lab. Now, it's not the common thing that a lot of people hear because research doesn't necessarily give you money quickly. But then, in the past 3 years, I know we've invested more than $200,000 in running this lab, trying different experiments. But let me just, I have a small thing to sort of show. So I know this might be small, but it's a Tiger battery. How many of you know of Tiger batteries you use in your maybe remote control? So this Tiger battery I have here, right? A lot of us have been using it since we were little, right? So this battery is made from things like, zinc, manganese, you mine them from the ground. And when you mine them from the ground, it degrades the earth, it causes a lot of environmental harm. But over the years, one of our researches has been around biobatteries, like a separate form of power or energy from the ground up, building from the first principles. And we've been able to conduct over 2,500 different experiments or chemical combinations from plants and different things alike. And we've been able to even build a battery that surpasses this from ground up. Although it's still in the final phases of the experiment or research, but this is something that causes a paradigm shift in technology, in innovation, in science. Things like these are things that somewhat redefine what we see. Just like people see space technology from Elon Musk. Yes, it's not new, but there's a lot of rebuilding from ground up. And that's what we've done with power. It's still in progress, but these are the minds that are behind this are sitting here. They are just like you, very young people, and also very talented people. One thing one of the speakers mentioned is the collaboration between universities and academia and the regular tech institutions. I spent a few months in Europe sometime last year, spent about 10 days in Finland. How many of you know of Nokia? You've heard of Nokia. So I was at the university that created Nokia, right? And it was really interesting. These guys had zero knowledge on technology. They were actually, Finland is known for, cutting wood and all that. But the university lecturers decided to go into this when a company approached them. And they made Nokia. And Nokia transformed the whole of Finland. The type of money that made from that is incredibly insane. And now, you would see those schools. While I was there, I saw Huawei's headquarters, their office inside the school. I saw some other big companies having their offices in the university. What does it mean? It shows that there is a strong relationship between academia and the industry, and it would help us to scale. So even in our research lab, we've been able to try and communicate with people in UNN to try and see, okay, where are areas we can even help with your research or they can help with ours. So because I know there are so many students here. As students here, you shouldn't be bothered so much about, how would you make the next 1 billion naira in the next maybe 1 minute, because, get rich quick schemes are everywhere. What you should be thinking about is how would you spend time to really apply yourself, even in the university. Times are changing. Things are not the same as they used to be. So it's very interesting and it's very essential for us to try as much as possible to engage our minds, and not just for a short period of time, because there's this illusion that once I do what this man is doing, in 6 months, I have people ask me, Ugo, maybe, can I do this thing in 6 months? Can I learn this thing in 3 months? If I do it now, can I start maybe driving this car? Can I buy this thing? And I'm like, it doesn't work that way, right? It's something that you need to actually commit. Forget about all those things. Even till today, some people ask me some questions, or maybe, why are you not driving this type of car? And I look at it and in my mind, I'm like, look, that's not the problem. We have fundamental things to sort out. And when we sort it out, like Kingsley said, delayed gratification, it helps. When Kingsley Eze showed the trajectory for valuation of companies, if you guys remember, the difference in time was 20 years. I'm sure there are people here who are not up to 20 years. So the difference in time was 20 years. Tesla, SpaceX, Microsoft is 48 years old, or maybe 49 this year. I'm not even close to 40, right? So you look at some of these things and you ask yourself, if people sit down, okay, Leo Saneke did it for 40 years. Like Obi Kubana said, for the last 2 decades, 20 years. When young people understand that things take time, you see that you need to disassociate your mind from the quick, and immediate returns. What you need is that level of consistency. And just to end my talk, I'll just make a charge to the government. I believe that, I can see Professor Onya here. Welcome. And I'm very happy we have, and also the Honorable Commissioner. One thing I can say is this. For people to really develop, there has to be a part they would play, and also the government. Like, what the government is doing now is so amazing, with education, with setting up halls like this, with the roads, with different infrastructure, and also with power. I have never turned on my notifications on any politician before, except someone like Peter and Pete Obi. But Peter's notification, anytime he tweets something, I'm always taking a look at it, because he's always doing even much more than expected. So I would just like to encourage the government to keep up and keep at it. And it's also good for people who are building, the business people. The government might not be able to do everything now. Actually, the government is a young government. That's how I refer to them. While I was in Finland, there's something they told me, like, the Finnish government funds up to $100,000 or 100,000 euros for startups registered in Finland. And yes, you might want to come back here and be like, why are we not doing it here? But you'd realize that there are so many factors that might affect it. But as someone who is also in the business world, I also see business people. Sometime I was in America, and there was this, before COVID, I heard on the radio in California then that, what was his name? Mark Zuckerberg built 1,000 units for people having housing problems, because in California there are so many homeless people. So you see that even as a business person, you can contribute to the government. So when you also think in that direction, you know that, yes, you have your own role to play. But also for the government in what they're doing, it's really essential that they keep at it. There's something, His Excellency, Dr. Peter Ndubisimbo always talks about, and it's the hyperscale data center. That one is dear to me. I wish you were here. But why it's dear to me is that annually, as our group of companies, we spend more than $300,000 on data center costs. And this money goes to the United States. Honestly, it's painful. It goes to America. Every month you're getting debit. And you're seeing it's going to San Francisco. It's going to San Francisco. It's going to Google and all these other guys. But if we could have those data centers situated here, it will allow younger people innovate. It will cost us a fraction of that cost, and we're more than happy to pay. So these are the types of things that government can do. Can do heavy liftings for startups or companies, right? And from our projection, let's say in the next 5 years, we should maybe be consuming up to $5 million annually. If you're not making that money, your business is going to shut down. And that's the truth. So it means that these are different things that the government can help subsidize. Also, accessing licenses. Now we're talking about blockchain and crypto. The United States of America, Donald Trump has it here. Everything he's doing in the tech space is Bitcoin, crypto. But here, we can actually have similar trends, because these guys see things early, but at times we play catch up. Blockchain companies here have been applying for licenses for God knows when. And these are things some other countries help their startups do. Access licenses easily. So helping companies in the gaming space, in the crypto space, or difficult industries to access licenses is also another thing. Someone I respect a lot is Elon Musk. There's something Elon always says that I think it's possible, I'm quoting him now, right? I think it's possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary. A lot of us might come into this place thinking that we're ordinary people. But from my own background, actually started out in quotes like every other ordinary person, I've seen that by choosing to be extraordinary, it's self-evident. And I encourage all of you here today that as I have chosen to be extraordinary, you also do the same. Thank you.
I'm sure you can do better than that. I wish his father were here to see him. His father must be gushing. I want to sing a little song. I'm a proud Enugu man now. Just join me in that song. It's going to be very short. Cold city, no place like cold city. Join me. Cold city, no place like cold city. Come on, come on, come on. Cold city, no place like cold city. Thank you. I'm going to appeal to Mr. Ugochukwu Arono and Chief Obinna Iyebu. So I am appealing to you to also cascade all the things you have to say on my program. I run a program on TV, Afia TV. It's owned by an Igbo man, since we are supporting Southeast. So if you can make an appearance, just for 30 minutes at 7 p.m. Biko. Oh? Yes. Please put your hands together for him. He agreed. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to recognize the presence of the Secretary to the Enugu State Government. And before I continue, remember that tomorrow, the event resumes at 9, so please be here early. And when we finish here, feel free to go to the booths and to the other pavilions where there are exhibitions, especially for the Hammer Games by Obi Kubana. So it's my pleasure to invite the Secretary of the Enugu State Government, Professor Chide Beronia, for the government's vote of thanks. Please put your hands together for him. You can do that a little more. So when we finish from here, we'll move around in the booths and the rest. Thank you. SSD, sir.
Please sit down. The Honorable Commissioner for Innovation, Science and Technology, Honorable Dr. Lawrence Eze, all government officials here present, the facilitators, our partners, innovators that are here present, and tech community members, our investors, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. So I'm going to try to say the good evening again, and hopefully I'll get a response. Can I try the good evening again? Okay, so I'll start with investors, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you so much. As we close the first day of this landmark event, the maiden edition of the Enugu Tech Festival, it is impossible not to have been moved by the sheer energy, passion, and determination that I have witnessed in the few hours I sat here today. I want to say something that is really important to me, and I hope most of you are paying attention. I want to say that the Honorable Commissioner for Science, Technology, and Innovation is a complete example that nothing is impossible. The Honorable Commissioner for Science, Technology, and Innovation is a complete example that nothing... Thank you. So we have gathered here merely to celebrate the technology that we have, but that's not the only reason that we're here. We're also here to ignite a movement. I listened to the last speaker, Ugochukwu. I listened to Obi Kubana. I listened to the other gentleman that spoke ahead. And what they have all charged is a movement that can ignite a group of young people, and not so young people, to key into a process that is going on globally now that will help us sustain the wealth that we create in Africa. This movement will challenge the notion that innovation can only thrive elsewhere. Ugochukwu has shown that we can do that, have homegrown innovation that will become a global phenomenon. The funding that we need, the support that we need, and we look for outside the borders. For our brightest minds, we can begin to look inward where some of our investors, some of our business people can begin to diversify in their business and invest in that area. Today, we break the cycle. Today, Enugu State will stand tall. And today, we will say to the world, like I've heard most people say here, we are ready to be engaged in this technology business that can change and bring solutions for humanity. Enugu has a long history for strength. This is not a new thing for us. We have a long history for resilience. We also have a long history of being vision bearers. Our history is rooted in industry. Most of you that are here are young, but there was a time Enugu was known for our coal mines helping power industries globally. Our civil service that was respected for the quality of governance that we delivered. But today, we stand boldly also in a new era. Our movement from coal has gone now to coding. So we're talking about algorithms that are built to solve the solutions that would to solve the problems of humanity. The digital revolution we're talking about today is going to help us position our city as West Africa's technology epicenter. That is what we hope to take away from this event. We are no longer just participants consuming every technology from outside the world. The young Ogochukwu pointed out some data. Over $500 billion in a sector, in a market that is looking for new entrants. We're no longer going to be observers. We are going to be participants in this global innovation. And we will step in there as architects of solutions that can solve problems. The Enugu Tech Fest has reinforced that our ecosystem is thriving. Our youths are brimming with potential, and our government is committed to nurturing the talents and enterprise that will define our future. Through the Enugu Tech Fest and the West Africa Stargate initiative, we are not simply talking about growth. We are investing in it. I'm going to give you a few points. $50,000 seed capital for 30 startups. If you're not clapping, I will reduce it to 5,000. Employment creation for 2,000 youths. Training and empowerment for 5,000 tech professionals. A dedicated angel investment fund. Strategic partnership with investors, institutions, and industry leaders. In Enugu State, we are laying the groundwork for a future where dreams do not die due to a lack of opportunity, where innovation is not stifled by inadequate support, and where talents are recognized, nurtured, unleashed to change the world. Sitting in this room are talents that we are hoping to support, that we are hoping that the support we give them will unleash a new era of innovators. And we're also hoping that in this room are going to be industry leaders. That's what Enugu State government is going to invest in the next couple of years under Dr. Peter Ndubuisimba to see that it thrives. But beyond the figures and initiatives, what has truly defined this festival is the people. I listen to the people that are here, all of you sitting, the thinkers that are here, the doers that have shared what they've done, the risk takers that have put in their money, like the first speaker talked about. Very few businesses want to expose their funds to risk when there hasn't been a track record of success. The risk takers that are here, who have gathered here to dream with us in Enugu State today. Together, we believe that we can do the unimaginable if we continue this momentum. To every founder that is here, every builder, every investor, and every visionary, this movement belongs to all of us. It belongs to you. It belongs to all of us. The work ahead will not be easy. It's never easy. People have talked about a 20-year journey, a 40-year journey. The journey is not going to be easy. But pioneering, like we know from history, is never easy. But let us leave here knowing that the foundation has been laid and that we stand at the beginning of something extraordinary. I challenge you today, everybody sitting here, both the investors, the young people, take what you have learned, Nurture the relationships that you have built and turn today's conversation into tomorrow's solution. Indeed, as the governor, Dr. Peter Mba, will say, our tomorrow is here, and we will rise up again together. God bless you. Long live Enugu State. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Na kwaka no Professor Kow. Obi Kubana, onye ọbụla na-akpọ gị afa. Hi. Thank you, Professor Chidiebere Onya, Secretary to the Government of Enugu State. While you are standing, let's take on national anthem. DJ, get ready, please. Tomorrow, you've heard from the SSG. Empowerment. It's going to be detailed. It's going to be intentional about it. Chuku, my friend, can I see you? Another big thing that is coming to Africa is 9th Marketplace. It's an app that will wow you and go into African markets. DJ, if you're ready for national anthem, we are ready. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Everyone wearing ETF shirt should come outside to take a group photograph. Okay? You can also move to the exhibition stand where you will see so many things that will wow you. Honorable Ikechukwu Bago, Onyejigu, I saw you. Ebuka Batoromioko, NYSN Chairman Enugu State. You're welcome. Echi kanga adashi mmadụ ego. Mgbe ahụ na-ama na mụ abịa m si ji ego. Honorable Commissioner for Science and Tech, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen.
better.